Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto, Willies. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. Good morning to Northeast Texas, Southeast Texas, Northwest Louisiana, Southwest Louisiana, and every nook and cranny inside of this United States of America, receiving that signal from our 100,000 watt transmitter into those magical little boxes that Howard continued to love, called radios. Anyhow, folks, we're going to have a great show for you today. But before we get busy, of course, we turn it all over to the studio with the geniuses in charge. Buenos dias, mi gente. Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Well, actually,
yeah, Jack and I were
two brothers.
Oh, yeah, two brothers. Well, you never know about me.
We're both Capricorns, so.
Yeah.
Okay, Capricorns.
Both of us workaholics. Jack and I were just sitting here playing tit for tat on the board. I kept turning you off because you were getting background noise. And Jack's like,
turn him on.
Turn that back on. I went, there's background noise. No, turn it back on. I went, no. So we were back. We were playing with the board here and just having a really good time for a Monday morning. You know,
it's
Egberto,
a fine mess you've gotten us into, Ollie.
Oh, well, Stanley, you shouldn't have showed up this morning. Yeah, I told you that Trump was going to implode. This thing has gotten out of hand with the eating dogs and cats. Have you seen all the news coverage on that? How those people are angry at the Trump campaign and thinking he's such an idiot. So, this could be one more shot in the foot of Donald Trump.
Well, I think he lost it, and I think a lot of people are starting to realize he lost it. When Iowa is within 4 points, that's a problem. When Florida is within 4 points, that's a problem. A few months ago, I kept on saying landslide, and people say, "Are you crazy?" I'm like, look, Americans are smart, man. I mean, I know sometimes we don't act it, but you wait.
That's a whole other story right there. Jack, you got a whole bunch of wisdom for us this morning, and I have no wisdom at all. So
it's too early for wisdom.
Let's switch it over to somebody intelligent here.
Yeah. All right. Good morning, Egberto. How are you?
Buenos dias, my brother. How you doing this morning?
I'm good. All right. It's time to exercise your vote. Democracy gave you the right to vote. If you're a U.S. citizen, think of it as your duty to vote. There are only about 22 days left for you to get registered to vote. This vote is probably one of the most important votes you're going to make. This vote is about the choices. The right is offering authoritarian rule, one man making all the decisions for you. The left still thinks and believes democracy is a pretty good thing. One man, one vote, one woman, one vote, where the people have input into the decision making. So get out there and vote these bums out. You are preaching to the choir, because what do I always say?
Vote them out.
Vote them out.
Vote them out.
Vote them out.
That is,
And vote them out, in case you didn't hear me.
that's the word
It's up
from
to
Howard.
people.
You know, Howard always is always I've been talking about voting them out from the time we started this program. But let me tell you something, Jack. Again, thank you for reminding me to remind everybody, folks. Please check it. If you're in Harris County, Texas, go to harrisvotes.org. Check your voter registration. Make sure that you are registered to vote. And everybody that's listening, whether you are here in Harris County, Texas, whether you are here in the entire Texas or the country, please, folks, register to vote and exercise your right to support democracy. Because, I tell you what, I came from Panama. And from the time I got my citizenship, I have that under lock seal, my certificate that says Certificate of Naturalization. I've probably missed a couple votes in my decades of living in this country, being a citizen of this country. And I tell you something, and Jack, this is all coming from you, brother. I tell you something, the guilt that I feel if I don't even vote in a school election, the school board election, there's this guilt. I missed one, I think it was a couple of years ago. And I felt, it destroyed probably my entire week because I felt like a fraud. Always telling people out there, hey, go vote, do this, do that, do that. And all I needed to do was have gone out on a Saturday to vote. And I don't remember what happened. And I didn't. And I just, and I hope that that's the kind of feeling that we teach ourselves to have, that we can't complain about how bad things are. And I'm not only talking about how bad things are in government. We can't complain about how bad things are in the economy or elsewhere if we don't vote, because again, we are the one, we elect a government who decides how people are going to be able to run this particular economy, because our government is what? We, the people. And whenever you hear people say things like government this and government that, or don't leave it to government, are you kidding me? Government is us. We should love our government because we love ourselves. We love our brothers and sisters. We should love government. The people who are out there, again, Jack, you're always making me change my damn subject that I intended to start with, but I'm thankful to you for that. Let me tell you guys, whenever they ask you, the narrative that came out from the Powell memo and all these other right-wing organizations or neoliberal organization is government is no good and dependency on the government, and their goal is to make you abhor government, hate government, have a disdain for government. And the reason they want you to hate government is because government is the largest corporation bar none. It's a corporation of we the people. And when you are that large, you have to be listened to. They would have you believe that the private sector is the sole place of innovation. I beg to differ. NASA and all these places who directed the private sector to do the things of national interest, go to the moon, create the infrastructure, etc. We don't see individual companies doing that because they can't. So the goal is for you to hate government. You, the people, they want you to hate yourself. Hate government. Instead of making government prosper and when I say government prosper, that means you prosper. The goal is to make government that you hate and then tell you that it's solely the private sector. Look, I don't have a problem with the pizza shop, the grocery store, the almacén, the stores that sell your goods and all of that private stuff, dynamic, all of that is great, but there are certain things that belong in we the people where we shouldn't allow the private space to control, private space to control your water, the private space to control your jails, the private space to control all those things that, well, if you need a profit, you won't necessarily do the right thing. You won't if chlorine 1 month costs too much. Well, maybe we can get away with putting a little bit less in the water for the sake of profit. Well, if dumping oil in the rocks 10,000 feet deep, even though we don't know if it's going to seep into the water table later on and permanently diffuse itself in it, well, you know what? By the time that happens, we're dead and gone. The next generation, they'll figure it out. Regulations by we the people that says, no, we won't allow you to do that. Government is not bad. When Reagan said government was the problem, that was just him being controlled by the right wing to say, you know what? Hate your government so that you'll give it all to us. The story that I'm going to cover with the union vote in Chattanooga, Tennessee, we'll talk a little bit more about that. But anyway, Harry is here very early in the morning. Good morning, my brother Harry. And by the way, folks, you can call in at any time. 713-526-5738. 713-526-5738. I do have 2 videos, but again, you know where you can find them if I don't get to play them on air. And likewise, we have some other stories in the newsletter. But come on in, my dear brother Harry. How art thou doing?
Amen to what you just got through saying. Government is your friend. Don't buy into what Ronald Reagan and all those people were saying, because they want everything private sectored, and they want you to vote against your interests, and they don't want public social programs that government can provide for you. Well, I'll start off with this. Tito Jackson, well, God rest his soul, great divine, died last night. I was sad. I was very sad to hear that overall on NPR. And now I'll go into Friday's show. Egberto, I am very proud of you. Like Steve Hunter once told me before he left KPFT, I think one of the final times I talked to him, he said, Egberto Willis has really made a difference in your life, hasn't he, Harry? And I said, yes. When Egberto makes comments like you made Friday, when Bard called at the end and Brian called, and Bard was talking about the Haitians, and I've been hearing that all weekend. These Haitian organizations are very worried and upset because of Donald Trump's hate and his lies about the dog eating and the cat eating, and it's all untrue, and they're getting bomb threats and death threats in Springfield, Ohio. All that is, that's what Donald Trump does, and dividing people. And it doesn't surprise me, once again, at Mar-a-Lago, at his golf course, somebody tried to assassinate him. I heard that yesterday from my friend, the one from Florida who's pro-Trump. And then I heard it on the radio, and I've been hearing it on the radio all this morning. They did arrest that guy. I think the Secret Service guy was a hole ahead of Trump when Trump was golfing, and they saw that rifle barrel out there. The guy drove off in his car, and they arrested him, and I can't remember the guy's name, but he's had some incidents before, and he's had I think he's been arrested, and he had a machine gun. I think it was illegal at one time to have that. But I liked it, Roberto, when you told Ebard how racist he was with his racist statements about the Haitians, and when Brian came on there saying stupid things about talking about Spanish and the border and wasn't making any sense at all, and you just called him on it. And I liked how you stuck up for Howard and stuck up for Jack Van Dever, who happened to be white. But like you said, we love on each other no matter what our pigmentation, whether we're melanin deficient or we're melanin deficient, whatever it is, we love on each other. And you are about bringing people together. And I remember telling Steve Hunter that before he left the air. Egberto brings people together, and he teaches people. And people should stop being stupid and saying stupid things like or trying to challenge you like that guy Edwin last week when you were trying to teach him about the money, about how with the bonds and how you don't have to have anything behind it. They can print, and you were telling, like, you don't let people get away with untruths on this show, and how you were trying to show him they can print money.
Man, thank you. Look, first of all, thank you for the kudos, and thank you for sharing the love with everybody. That's, look, something. I don't want to turn this into a social hour or something like that, or whatever kind of or you call it. But let me just say this, brother. That it is so much easier
to like or love somebody than it is to push hate. You feel sick, man. You know what I mean? I don't go around there. There are people I don't like, but I don't go out there concentrating my life on those who don't like. If I don't like them, it is because they don't do something that they did something that I find offensive or whatever. But still, if I saw them in a car wreck or whatever, I'll be the first one out there trying to help. But look, it's important. When it comes to what Bard had to say, that really hit a nerve because it is the Haitians today. At one point, it was the Irish. I don't know if you remember those days.
Yes.
At one point, it was the Italians. And the one thing that upsets me, and I'm glad you brought that up, Brother Harry, is even some people who have been aggrieved, some people who have been discriminated against, some people who bad things have happened to because of their ethnicities or otherwise. Sadly, sometime when those people join the fold of or become when they've been standardized, if you will, they start to effect that same kind of evil onto others. And with that, I'm talking about what's happening in Israel right now, right?
Right.
The Holocaust was a terrible, terrible, inhumane genocide. And I'm sorry to bring this up here, but when I hear some of the videos from some of the soldiers who are going into Gaza and talking the same wordiology that Hitler spoke about those same soldiers back in the late 30s, early 40s, or I should just say it in the 30s and 40s. I feel that Palestinian pain. I have a video interview that I did with Israeli and a Palestinian guy. The Israeli guy. Say that again?
I said I feel that too. It hurts me when I keep hearing stuff with Democracy Now! With a little girl, I think last week, who can't even go out and play. This is a Judean person, and she's talking about how they're, which is good, they're helping the Judean people who are...
right. I get it. I get it, Harry.
Cool.
Harry, let me just say this because, and then I'm going to let you go and then I continue. But let me just say this, because it's important, right? I have this video that... Go ahead. Yes, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, yeah, I want to mention one. I like what Arnie Arson said. She hopes that Texas turns purple. And I heard on Reverend Al Sharpton's show yesterday how there was a black woman who was talking about how they're trying to suppress the black vote here in Texas because this Colin Allred is really in a tight contest with Ted Cruz. And I remember when Neil Aquino was on last week and you guys were talking about that. The Republicans want to suppress the vote. And like Jack Van Diver and Howard Reynolds is saying, make sure you're registered so they can't suppress the vote here in Texas. And Colin Allred defeats that bum, Ted Cruz. Go ahead.
Thank you, Harry. Let me let you go, Harry. Let me let you go. All right. Let me just say this. The last thing, I have an interview that I have. It's at, where do I have it? I think it's at politicsandright.com. And it's an interview with Maoz and Sarah. This is a Jewish man who lost his mother, father on October 7th with the terrorist attack on Israel. And Maoz, and Sarah, who is a Palestinian, he lost his brother at the hand of Israelis several years ago. And both of them are in the tourism industry. And when Sarah heard about Mao's mother and father dying, he called him up and he didn't know if he was going to want to talk to him being a Palestinian, and said, I'm so sorry about what happened to your mother. We have to do something about this. And all through his pain, Maoz called back Sarah and said, yeah, we need to. And the two of them have been going around the country and the world as a Palestinian and an Israeli, trying to create peace, trying to show that, yes, they are brothers, they are cousins, and this should stop. And it's the politicians who are driving this sort of hate. They're driving this. It's a great interview I did back at Netroots Nation with these two guys. I mean, we really, if you get a chance to listen to it, because I'm going to play it here sometime in the near future. But it is a touching interview that just shows if we make the effort to be together, we can. It's so much effort to hate. It's so less effort and so much much more rewarding to love. Anyhow, the title, wow, it's 20 after and we're just going into what the title is. All because of what Jack started. You hear me, Jack? It's your fault. Anyway, we're going to start. Title of the show today is Lion VP Candidate JB Vance nailed by Bash and Welker. Unions continue to grow. And I want to touch on the union first before I do the other stories. And by the way, folks, the telephone number is 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. And the story I picked up in the place, a rag that I like, Common Dreams, says, after historic union vote, Chattanooga VW workers rally for record contract. And again, the Volkswagen plant in Chattanooga, it's a very profitable plant. It wasn't a union house. And as you know, yours truly strongly believes that every American worker should be unionized. I don't care what job you do. There should be, for every American worker should be unionized. That's the only way you know that you have the power to negotiate with the big entities, right? So I believe in unions, and I think we should all be a member of them. Following their historic vote to join the United Auto Workers in April, workers at a Volkswagen plant in Chattanooga, Tennessee, held a rally on Sunday as they prepare to head into the first round of negotiations with the company next week. With their vote, the Chattanooga workers became the first Southern automakers not affiliated with one of the big three auto companies to win a union. To that, we give a big yay. Just a few months ago, you voted 3-1 to join the UAW. The union's president, Shawn Fain, told the assembled workers, adding, you had faith and you moved mountains. You overcame opposition and you won your union. And, you know, the article continues, but there's a part that really got to me. It's what we talked a lot about here. And it goes as follows. They're going to say that our righteous fight for a high quality of life for the working class will wreck the economy or derail the transition to EV, that's electric vehicles. Fain said, adding, the only economy that's going to get wrecked in this is their economy that only works for the rich and the corporate class. Fain shared figures showing that Volkswagen had increased its profits since 2021. Listen to this. Since 2021, their profits have increased by 49% compared with the previous 3 years, securing $24 billion in profits in 2023 alone. But instead of sharing that windfall equitably with the workforce and the local economy, it paid CEO Oliver Bloom $10.5 million and wealthy shareholders $12.7 billion. Shareholders have seen their dividends jump by 288%. That's billions of dollars that have been robbed from the workers who generated those profits, Fain said. It's billions of dollars that weren't spent on the EV transition. It's billions of dollars being spent on mansions in faraway countries and yachts and private marinas and not being spent in the local business right here in Tennessee. I want to digress right here for a second. You hear about all that money that was generated by the sales of those Volkswagens. Guess what? Absent the worker, absent all those people bringing in the raw materials, all those ancillary workers around Tennessee, Chattanooga, and all these places, those billions would not be made. When they talk about and by the way, we got to blame Biden also for this, more so the right wing, but Biden also. When they put these huge tariffs on EVs from coming into the country, saying they're protecting our industry. So the cars the EVs that can sell in Jamaica from China for $10,000, for $12,000. Yeah, baby. Jamaicans are buying EVs and riding electric vehicles charged by solar cells in Jamaica as we speak today. We can't bring those inexpensive cars into the country because we've thrown a big, humongous tariff onto it. Why? To protect our auto industry. But our auto industry have not decided to take those humongous profits and pay their employees and pay for the transition to a better car, an electric car, one that is much more efficient than oil burning cars. And then the government that they so hate, the government that they so tell you not to like, are the ones who continuously have to come into the fold and save the private sector. Let's go back to the tariff thing a bit. They put, and I think this one is on Biden. Don't quote me here, but Trump wants to put a across the board 10 or 20% tariff on all imported goods, right? That they claim to protect or create manufacturing here. Not true. That's only there to raise money instead of through the income tax through tariff. And they go ahead and they put tariffs on these cars, right? If you look to see whom is asked to pay every single time for those humongous profits for these companies, and I know sometimes I sound like a broken record, but the one thing I've learned from the right wing is repetition is a good thing. It tends to stick in the long run. But I want you to think about this. The tariffs we have on imported electric cars purportedly is to prevent or save the industry, our auto industry, to get them to catch up with where the Chinese are. Remember a few days ago, I said the biggest, most efficient capitalist country is China. And I got some crap for that. I put it on Daily Kos, and Daily Kos, you don't know what you're talking about. They are not a capitalist. And I'm like, look, they decided that they were going to invest in the EV. And guess what? They're producing EVs up the gazoo and exporting them all over the world. So much so now that we are putting tariffs on EVs because we are not making enough EVs at a good price that people can afford. And we're not paying, or instead we're taking all those profits, those billions that Fain was talking about, the billions that Volkswagen made, paying a CEO $10 million in 1 year plus stock options, paying a shareholders all the money for sitting down at their pool sipping tea as they just get free money, and that money is not invested in the future. And when the future fails them, in other words, when other companies and countries come out there and start to build things and create things, we then protect them with tariffs. And what is a tariff? A tariff is a tax on us all. So no matter what happens in this country, they ask the middle class, they ask the poor to pay the price. When you have to pay a tariff not to bring EVs in here so that you would buy the more expensive EV American car, what that means is we are having the poor people, the middle class people, pay for the ineptitude of the corporations who decided to invest that money not into making better price EVs, but to send that money to the shareholders and to the corporate executives. And then you ask yourself, wait a minute, why are we paying for it? The same thing happened with the chip makers, right? The chip makers went ahead and decided it's cheaper to make chips in Taiwan and other places. And when the supply chain issue hit because of COVID, and we had just-in-time inventory that prevented us from storing all of that stuff on shores, here we are manufacturing on shore or offshore, but we won't build the storage locations onshore in case there's a hurricane that busts up a ship, in case there's a pandemic that prevents us from getting products. We don't want to store stuff. We have just-in-time inventory. As the ship lands in the port of Houston or the port of LA, we put it onto the railroad, we put it onto trucks, and as soon as we need it, It's there. We don't keep inventory. We took a one-time charge of inventory and we prevent. Look, folks, the private sector is more efficient than the public sector. Dream on. It's the lie that they want to tell you, just like JD Vance is talking about all these Asians eating dogs and cats. Maybe there's one, maybe there's two. I don't even know if there are any. But how do you paint that onto everybody else? So my contention here, my brothers and my sisters, is not because you hear it on TV, it's correct. Not because you hear it on ABC, CBS, NBC, and all these places, it's correct. There are a lot of fallacies that are out there just to make sure that those shareholders continue to take your money, to make sure that those executives continue to take your money, to make sure that you pay all the charges. Repatriation of manufacturing chips in the United States. You know who paid for it? You did. With your taxes now, you have invested in bringing back manufacturing of the chip to the United States. So our manufacturing base is increasing, not because of big corporate investments, but because we, the people, your government, decided to subsidize the private sector, the corporations, to suddenly start building in the United States again. Because their patriotic duty never told them, maybe we should not make so much so that we can keep a lot of manufacturing in the United States instead of just thinking of the few and manufacturing overseas. People. You can't believe the mainstream media because they're also paid for. Well, I shouldn't say it that way. You can't believe all that is said in the mainstream media because, again, guess who pays? Them. The same corporate structure. And if anybody wants to discuss anything, anyone who thinks that I may be wrong, may want to dispute it, please feel free. You know, I love to have the discussion. Right now, I want to welcome Paul Fleming from Atlanta, Georgia is on the chat. Eric Hayes from Kingwood, Atascocita is on the chat. We also have Melanie Keelan from Barcelona, Spain. Melanie, it was great having you on Ask Egberto Anything this weekend. We sure had fun. Good talking. Madragan, I didn't go ahead and do any more research on it, but I saw the information that you also sent me on that you sent me over the weekend. Anyway, I'm going to pause here with the narrative on the unions and jump to Brother Johnny. Brother El Señor Juan, come on in.
Thank you, sir. Here's my question. I'd like to know where all that money winds up, that tariff money or money that judges fine people, criminals with. I know sometimes it pays for restitution and all, but not all of it. I'd like to know, does that money go to the General Treasury and then is it earmarked for good things, or do Republicans get their hands on it like they did with the money from the post office? I'd like to know where that money goes. And do the manufacturers, the car dealerships, do they wet their beak while they forward the money back to Uncle Sam? I'd like to know about that kind of stuff.
Here's the deal. The money from the tariffs goes straight into the government coffers, okay? So it's just a part of revenue that the government collects. So it adds to the total revenue stream, income taxes, tariffs, fees, all those things go into the general revenue fund. Now, what they did because Trump's tariffs raised the prices of a whole lot of stuff and also caused some tariff wars. It turned out that he used some of that money. He used a justification of getting that tariff money to send money to the farmers. So it was a transfer of wealth from the American people to the farmers who got hurt by the tariffs that Trump imposed. I want you to think about that transition. Trump wanted to screw a group of people, so he puts tariffs onto certain products. It then caused the farmers to lose business. And you remember that farmer that I had on recently? It caused the farmers to lose business, and he gave back the farmers free money for doing nothing, right? Do I have any problem with that? I don't have a problem with that because the government instituted something that screwed the farmers' income. And what the farmers did is they went ahead and they got back some of that money that from the government. So I don't have a problem with that. So no, the answer to you specifically, Johnny, is it goes back into the government coffers. What Trump wants to do, when Trump says, I want a 10 or 20% tariff, what he's saying is he wants to create a different revenue stream for the government so that he can give the monies back to the wealthy who get their taxes reduced. And believe it or not, if you put a 10% tariff on our entire import base, you're talking about $300-something billion. Okay? So it's real money we're talking about. Very real money. Anything else, Johnny?
Yeah, for the people who work a wage in service industry, that's a whole lot of pizzas you have to make. Elon Musk, his ability to fly around in a rocket ship.
And again, and that is something we paid for. I mean, that
subject. I get annoyed every time I hear on legacy media when they report about the latest achievements of the SpaceX, and they're clapping, going, "What are you talking about? You guys are going backwards. We should have colonies on Mars by now." Instead, we're flying up and down.
I'm glad you brought that up. Let me add to that, because this is important. It shows you how the media can generate narratives to make things look like they're not. They're giving SpaceX all these big kudos for making what's called, first of all, the first time he went up, a suborbital flight. You know who did that? Alan Shepard back in the 60s. Okay? They give kudos for this billionaire that is now 800 miles above the Earth. Still, you know who did that? The Saturn, the Gemini did that. Okay, my point is the following. I worked for NASA back in the 90s. All right, the things that they're talking and giving Elon Musk a whole lot of credit for are things that we did with computers that were millions of times less powerful than what they have right now. Okay, so Elon Musk isn't doing anything great. Okay, but what we do is he puts a few bells and whistles on it, and look at what we do. We invented the technology. We, the people, invented the technology that Elon Musk is using right now, from the batteries right back to the spaceship. All of that we invented a long time ago. And you know what the private tech sector has done? Screwed it up. Boeing couldn't even get a damn capsule with a human being back because they thought, well, they brought it back, but they didn't dare put a human being in it because they didn't know it would crash coming down. But we did it with the Apollo. We did it with Skylab. We did it with the space station. We did all of that already. What the private sector claimed they're doing with Elon Musk, he's doing nothing new.
All the seminal research we did was up to the time of Ronald Reagan's, the space shuttle. From the space shuttle on forward, it's been a disaster. It's been going backwards. Yes. And they got people tricked because you've always got new people being born who don't know any better, whose parents don't know any better, and it leaves up to people like me who's on the way out. It's tragic.
Johnny, I got to go, but you're not on your way out, Johnny. You are a necessary commentator here, brother. But anyway, we'll talk a little bit later. Let's go to Sister Betty. Sister Betty, come on in, my dear sister. How you doing?
I'm fine. I'm going to stand up and give my attention to all the women of the world, especially the Asians, whenever we send our boys over there, send our boys over there to fight. It was a woman that helped them keep their sanity so they could come home and function. And to the Koreans also, and to the women that is having to do the same thing in the countries that is fighting now, Ukraine especially. Yes, the women's to get up there, they say no. Because I lost my family, I lost my friends. No. And Kamala, she's going to help us with our sanity here in this country. And Jack, voting, people makes a difference. No matter who they are or where they are or where they're born, people makes a difference. So vote. I love you all three. You're my trio. Thank you.
Love you too, my dear Betty. Love you too. And I'm pretty sure Howard and Jack love you as well. I thank you so kindly for your call, and hooray for women. It's time for women to take leadership in this country. We've done a good job of screwing things up a whole lot. So women, From Betty to you, from me to you. Thank you, Betty. You have a wonderful day, sis. Have a great day.
I will. I had to get that on my chest. I love y'all again. Bye.
All right. Have a great one. Let's go to Brother Donald. I know I'm going to get me a big smile right now.
Hey, good morning, Egberto. Yes, how are you today?
I am fine. Talk to me, brother. Talk to me.
You could get one of those electric Chinese-made cars, but I think they only go 65 miles an hour. The point is, I'm getting your engineer. Give me the rolling resistance, the efficiency, everything else of an automobile. What's wrong with America is Americans. We want bigger and we want faster. People cannot even drive 55 miles an hour, yet we tell them they can go 75 and 85 on highways. You see how many wrecks there are. Just a little bit more time has slowed down. But that's why those cars are not coming here. We don't know the efficiency of their batteries, how much it costs to replace them. Are the safety standards right? But they are here, and you can get one. And then what is this we all the time when something's screwed up? That's what I want to know. I look for that mouse in my pocket all weekend because it's we this, we that when something's screwed up. Why do they allow our brains to work that way? I hear Johnny, he's like, well, the Republicans get a hold of the money. All the politicians, it doesn't matter if they're Republican, Independent, Democrat. If there is money and there's onions to peel, somebody's pulling a layer off and putting it in their pocket. There ain't no we. I ain't found that stuff in my pocket.
Let me tell you, Donald, I think, we have different gradations of doing bad things. So I think that's that is pretty much what our brother Jack speaks about a whole lot. But let me just say this. The EVs are all over the world, okay? These Chinese EVs are all over the world and doing fine. So, I mean, as far as battery life, if the product is no good, the market will go away from it. We believe in free market supply, demand, and all of that.
Is the charging point universal? Where you charge them at? The charging stations?
Yeah,
we started running into all this when, hey, look, are they compatible? Are they universal?
Hey, you're right.
America is going to stick it to them.
Donald, I got to go.
People don't understand.
Donald, I got to go, but let me just say this. You are absolutely right about standardization of charging and all of that. That is where government regulations come in, and that's what makes government very, very important. Government can decide tomorrow. It can say we're going to have the Marshall Plan on electricity. We're going to stabilize the grid, and we're going to have a 10-year plan to electrify. We could do that. But it takes a government mandate away from the oil companies and all of that who have interest for these things not to happen. So, I mean, that's what it is. And I like what you say about
10 years. You know what comes every 10 years? A census. And that's how we get money. And see what happens. They drop people everywhere and they don't drop the money. So if you're waiting on 40 acres and a mule, you'll still be waiting. That's it.
Yeah. All right, Donald. Thank you, brother. I figure I would get a chuckle before you leave. Take care, my brother. Let's go to Brother Bart. Come on in, Bart.
Good morning, sir. Yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the assassination attempt on President Trump. I noticed that you haven't mentioned it. I guess you're going to ignore it like you did the last one. That's fine. We already have a good idea who the shooter was. And I just want to ask for Brother Harry and Moses and Melanie and Melissa to please put Trump in your prayers. This is the second one in the last 2 months. And we just need to get this guy to the finish line so that he can make affordable groceries again.
Well,
thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bart. Unfortunately, Bart is going to be very, very disappointed because Trump is going to lose in a landslide, but that's okay. The thing about it is the following, right? He asked, why don't I talk about the Trump assassination? Look, I let those people who are going to take care of that do it. Is Trump in my prayers? Well, I don't pray. So I am not a prayer. I'm somebody that goes out there and there's nothing wrong with prayer. Let me just kind of qualify that. It's just not something that I feel well, I'm not going to go there. What I do, though, is things that I have control of, I try to work with. Things that I don't have control of, I leave it to the people who have control of it. The FBI, the Secret Service, all of them, they're doing their job. They've made sure that our former president didn't get assassinated, as they should. Do I want anything to happen to our former president? Absolutely not. I don't want anybody assassinated. And let me also tell you this. I don't even hate Donald Trump. I know for those who may think that I hate Donald Trump, I don't. I honestly pity Donald Trump. For a guy to be a billionaire and have such low self-esteem, it behooves me. I mean, I don't have 1/1,000,000th the money that Donald Trump has. I'm poor. And to see somebody with no character, no pride, self-loathing, and he tops that with trying to be, I am the best or whatever. I really feel sorry for the guy. As his niece would say, he really has a psychological problem based on who reared him. So no, I just don't want somebody that damaged to run this country because he's done enough damage to the country. Come on in, Jim.
Hello. Say, I've been just recently hearing about this $10,000 electric car from China, and I'm kind of leery of the idea that somebody can build a car for $10,000 and it's going to be worth anything.
Right?
I mean,
yeah.
If we're only going by cost, it's probably not worth it. But if you go to Florida, they have this place called the Villages where all these old people go. And they're actually driving these things called golf carts, I'm just joking, but
I know. Hey, but Jim, the relative, let me just give you this because go ahead real quick.
Have you ever recently or anything priced an electric bicycle? You can pay $1,000 for an electric bicycle. How is it possible with all the regulations we have on cars, safety features, everything else? You're going to be able to sell a $10,000 car in the United States.
No, not in the United States. You couldn't sell it. You couldn't sell a $10,000 electric car in the United States. But I'm saying that in Jamaica, they can. I think it's $12,000 or $14,000. I said $10,000. It's like $12,000 or $14,000 in Jamaica. But the reason that it is our dollar is very strong, right? And there are a lot of we have a certain kind of a culture where the price increase, the things that we put on top of pricing is ridiculous. You'd be surprised to know how cheap a car really is.
Let me say this: if you want an inexpensive, good car, the Ford Maverick. Have you priced a Ford Maverick?
No. How much does it cost?
It doesn't. I think it cost. The first ones came out were $20,000. I think they've gone up, but when you compare it to $100,000 pickup trucks, hey, I mean, why do we have to go to China for this?
Oh, I agree. I agree. Listen, I agree that we don't have to go to China for something. I agree. But if we are taking all our profits from our corporations and giving it to the shareholders and to the executives, that's the reason why. Because we give our profits away instead of giving a better price and a better thing here in the United States. And that's what we have to learn. When I talked about China doesn't have to pay the shareholders what we pay our shareholders, etc. So it's a different culture, a different way of thinking. But hey, Jim, I'm out of time and I got to go to 3 other calls. So look, thank you. Give me a call tomorrow. We'll continue. Okay?
Okay. Bye.
Thank you, brother. Let's go to Dawn. Come on in, Dawn.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I
just wanted to say thank you so much for everything you do, and I appreciate the discussions. I was a little bit surprised yesterday when I got home and I heard that there was yet another possible assassination attempt against Donald Trump. But the first thing I told my son is unfortunately, when you start to spread negativity and you start to spread, misinformation, disinformation, it's going to eventually come back. And I think that, unfortunately, all these seeds that Donald Trump might have sown with all of his negativity might be coming back, to haunt him. And I just hope that everyone just, does their investigation and looks into information, and that we really do not need somebody like this running our country. I think we're going to be much better off if he just continues playing golf.
I agree with you very much, Daddy. I think what you said is solid, and yes, he needs to stay playing golf because, again, he's already caused the death of hundreds of thousands of Americans with his mismanagement. This inflation that we're talking about here it was started because of his mismanagement, not only with tariffs, but with what he did with the COVID. And we can draw the direct line. So I'm glad that you said that. You're absolutely right. Anything else, Dawn, before we go, sis?
And I mean, it just amazes me. And I guess I'm frustrated, but hopefully we have hope that, I'm not sure why others don't see these things. Just it's a shame. I sometimes miss the old days. A lot of erroneous information is passed around and then people go with it so quickly, and
let me say,
a breath
Dawn,
of taking some time.
Dawn, is going to be okay. Let me tell you, this election is going to be okay. Take it from somebody who hopes that he's right, but thinks he's right, that I think we're going to be pleasantly surprised in November. And I think we're going to be pleasantly surprised by the scope in November. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. But thank you so kindly for your call.
Please get out and
Dawn.
vote, everyone.
Absolutely. You have a wonderful rest of your day. Let's go to Brian, brother Brian. Come on in, Brian. How you doing?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing fine, sir. Talk to me.
Okay, I would rather have a president that knows how to run a business versus a woman that graduated 96 out of 198 and failed her first bar exam. I would rather have someone that has signed checks, that understands how business works.
Okay, is that it?
That's it. All
right. Well, I'm glad you said that because I agree. It would be nice to have somebody in the White House who knows to run a business. Now, there are two kinds of business. The government, it has the same kind of accounting principles when it comes to expenses, etc. And she did a darn good job as Attorney General of her big staff in California and AG and the other positions she had. But the interesting thing about Donald Trump is that you're right. We shouldn't want Donald Trump to run because he has been a terrible business person as he's bankrupted. He went bankrupt 6 times. His Truth Social is makes no money, and it's a sham that's going to go bankrupt when he no longer is president. And we can go on and on. So you're absolutely right. It would be nice if he could run a business, but if he bankrupted 6 times, why would we want him as a president to bankrupt us? Come on, man. All right. Got to leave you, Brian, and jump to the next call because 409. Oh, wait.
How many times?
Go ahead, real quick.
How many times did Charles Schultz? How many times did Charles Schultz' book get turned down? 9 times.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Donald Trump got bankrupted many times. He's a terrible businessman. All right, let's go to line number 2. She never went bankrupt. Thank you. Go ahead to the other line, line 2. Let's see. Come on in. Whoever, just talk all the people on the line. We don't have a name yet. Real quick. You got 5 seconds. Yeah, that's you. Talk.
Good morning. Listen, I haven't called in for a while, but I listen, and I will donate. But I just have to call in and say I have a very sad heart for these people who have blinders on and cannot see. There is that verse in the Bible about the people who don't have eyes to see. It's right in front of them, and they can't see. How can they misunderstand this man and think that he would be the right person to govern this country? I don't understand it.
Kathleen, don't worry. Like I said, I think we're waking up, Kathleen. I got to go because I don't have any more time, but thank you so kindly, sister, for calling. We'll talk. Call me another day as well. We'll talk.
Keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Harry and Johnny, I'm out of time completely, so we'll talk tomorrow morning. Anyway, I got to jump to the studio.
Well, Brian brings up a very interesting point about business and government. You cannot run the government like a business. They're two different animals because the government is inexorably attached to the taxpayer's pocket. You can't get rid of them. They don't really create products, they create rulings now and regulations, or they should be creating regulations. A business is a whole different animal. You cannot run the government like you run a business. So to the point is you just can't do it. And Donald Trump was a terrible businessman. He was just lucky. Now, Jack, what you got?
Well, at the first, we were talking about October 7th, and October 7th was people got sacrificed that day. They were held out there to be attacked by their own country.
Thank you so kindly, Jack. Anyway, folks, love all my listeners, my callers, everybody. Folks, please remember the videos and everything for the show are at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. I got to get out of here. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know I am what? Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willies.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.